Hey, how's it going, guys? It's your boy Mike from Seattle, and have you seen The Money Guy Show?
It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
On YouTube or the radio show, maybe their podcast, I want you to envision Dave Ramsey 2.0. All the same Dave Ramsey flavor you've come to love with only half the calories. They give advice on the same sort of topics, financial advice, investing advice.
Just how powerful, how big of a deal, how substantial Roth and Roth assets are.
401ks, IRAs, retirement, all that type of stuff that you know and love from Uncle Dave Ramsey. But in my personal opinion, I think they probably give a more realistic approach to building financial wealth and not being such a stringent anti-debt crusader like Dave Ramsey. That being said, I was a huge fan of them until I heard them give their opinion on real estate investing.
I'll be even more self-deprecating than you were. I bought my first house when I was 20 years old. It was ridiculous. I had no business buying a house that young at that stage of life.
So I get it. You're probably asking yourself, hey man, who's this millennial man-child to tell me and critique them on their advice that they're giving? Clearly, they've been doing it for a long time, and you're right. They've been doing the investment and financial planning advice when it comes to like stock and IRAs and 401ks for a long time, but I really don't think that either one of them has invested in real estate other than just buying their own house, which is totally fine. It's not for everybody. But I think that they're totally missing out on giving some really beneficial advice that might apply to you. I know it applied to me, and my biggest regret, my number one biggest regret is that I didn't start earlier, and it's the first thing they said they think they did wrong, was they bought a house too early. Now I'm gonna explain why. We're gonna watch their video. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm gonna watch it.
Okay, this is one, because I think perhaps they have the wrong perception, but it'll be good. This is from Christian. He says, "Hey, money guys, I'm a huge fan of y'all. Any chance you could elaborate on your decision to own a home early rather than rent? Would you consider it a financial mistake?" So I think that Christian is under the impression we're saying it makes sense to buy a home as early as possible, and if you don't, it's a mistake. Is that our view?
No, because I think, look, the first question you have to ask yourself before you buy any house is, am I going to be in this area long enough to justify the transaction? So that's why you first have to say, am I going to be here 5 to 7 years at a minimum?
Okay, so right off the bat, they get asked the question, hey, is it a mistake to not buy a house early? And their response is to tell you, no, that's not our position at all. The first thing you need to ask yourself is, how long are you going to live somewhere? If you're going to consider buying real estate, well, how long are you going to live there? And then Brian proceeds to go on and say, you need to know whether you're going to live there at a minimum of at least 5 to 7 years. What? 5 to 7 years? Holy smokes. Okay, now he makes a fair point, right? If you're going to live somewhere for 6 months, then yeah, you probably don't want to buy real estate there. If you're going to live somewhere a year, maybe you don't want to buy real estate there. But I would say if you know you're going to stay somewhere for at least 2 years, then it's absolutely worth purchasing real estate there if you do it correctly. Let me explain what I mean by that. So for those of you who followed my channel, you know that I house hacked. Why I chose to do what I'm doing, how I'm house hacking, and how I made this happen, right? I own a duplex. I live in one side and I rent the other side out. The other side pays about 75% of my mortgage, and I'm only responsible for 25% of my mortgage. Now, if you're going to live somewhere, you're going to have to pay something, whether it's rent or a mortgage. You are going to have to pay to live there. So when he says, well, you shouldn't buy anything unless you're there for 5 to 7 years, I say, holy smokes, Brian, have you never heard of house hacking? Have you never heard of this before? You do what I'm doing. You buy a duplex and you rent out half of it, and then you get a roommate for the side you live in, as do I have, and then he pays me $600 and I'm literally responsible for like $100 a month for my mortgage payment, and that's it. And yes, sure, I'm responsible for repairs, whereas if you're renting, you wouldn't be, but I save and make so much money each month by renting out the other side of my duplex and having a roommate that when a repair comes my way, I have more than enough money to cover it. I'm confused, boys. What is your opinion on house hacking, right? My challenge to you is please respond to this and give me your opinion on house hacking.
And we're not even one of those people that says paying rent is throwing money down the drain.
No,
because
not
I think
at all.
a lot, especially some of you guys, you go out and you make a lot of money in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. You know that it's probably more economically feasible to rent in those marketplaces than it is to buy, especially if you know you're not retiring, going to live there long term. You're just there to kind of build some experience. No, you should never go and immediately buy.
Okay, so Brian says, no, you should never go and immediately buy. And I don't know, I think I'm part of the, I learned this maybe in middle school science class, right? If a statement has a definitive statement on it, like always or never, you automatically know it's false. Because there's no way it can always be this way or never be this way, right? So when he says, you should never go and buy, well, of course there's situations where you should. Now maybe they're more rare, maybe for the large amount of people, they shouldn't go and buy, but you can always find a situation where it would be intelligent for you, even if you've been there for 6 months. And again, I would drop their 5 to 7 years down to 2 years. If you're going to live somewhere for 2 years, average rent, say it's $1,500 a month. I'm in the Seattle area. It's an expensive area to live. A studio apartment with 1 bathroom is going to be $1,500 a month here, right? If you're going to spend $1,500 a month over 2 years, that's 24 months. I mean, that is a lot of money, right? I mean, you're looking like $32,000 or something like that. What's wrong with instead living for $100 a month? With a house hack? Other people are paying your mortgage, building your net worth in your name.
But and also, we have some teachable components is that we did fall prey. I don't mind being self-reflective as well as self-deprecating and share that, yes, I bought my first house when I was 24 years old. And I look back and it wasn't a bad decision on when, it was probably more of where and
gotcha,
why.
yeah.
I mean, because I was in the area, I checked that box, but it's just that area. I haven't really had appreciating real estate until I moved to Tennessee, because when you're on south of Atlanta got devastated in the 2008, 9, and 10 downturn. That property still hasn't recovered from what happened back then. So I think you have to have the why, you have to have the where, and you have to make sure you're checking all the boxes.
So his opinion on appreciation just confuses me, because you're looking at a stock mentality and trying to use that same mentality to build value into real estate. That's not what real estate is about, in my opinion. Yes, I understand that there's people out there who buy real estate, hold it very long term with appreciation in mind. I understand that. But to me, that's a gamble. And I don't like to gamble. I like surefire guaranteed things, or as close to it as I can. And while you might say, well, real estate appreciating over 30 years is as close to a guarantee as possible, maybe you're right, maybe not. Here's what I think, and they don't even mention, and I have never heard them say in a single video, when it comes to real estate, cash flow is king.
Cash is not king. There is a king, and it is not cash.
Appreciation is an afterthought. You buy a property that can bring you a decent cash flow after you've paid your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, set aside 10% for vacancies, 10% for maintenance, and if it's like a multiple unit, like an apartment building, maybe 10% for capital expenditures, CapEx. With a duplex, I just do the 10% for vacancies and maintenance. And everything I have after those expenses, right, my rental income minus all those things I just listed, is my remaining cash flow. So for instance, on the property I just bought in the Midwest, my cash flow each month is like $380 after all my expenses. And it only cost me $16,500 to buy it. I'm looking at about a 30% cash on cash return annually. In other words, I take the 370, multiply it by 12, divide that by my initial investment, and I've got about a 30% return on my money. What stockbroker out there is saying they can get you 30% on your money, right? Not a lot. And then after that cash flow, if the property appreciates, that is a bonus. That is a cherry on top of the sundae, okay? That is not why you buy it. You do not buy a property with the goal of appreciation. You buy a property that cash flows. And if it appreciates, great. If the market crashes and everything falls out, I understand people would say, well, rental incomes might go down. Interesting point, and I'm actually going to go ahead and jump to a video that shows you that did not happen in 2007 and 2008. All right, guys, as you can see right here, a quick Google search will bring you to the rents. What we have right here is the real gross rent in the US, the median and the average, okay? And you can see right here, starting in 05 and 06, that's on the increase. 07 and 08, remember quarter two of 07 is when the real estate crash started, right? Rents ticked up just slightly on the median and on the average, and then you can see right here we had pretty much flat line, right? I mean, we're looking at a 1% up or 1% down in the median and average rent over a 4-year period. So rents did not decrease. Remember, home values were dropping here in Seattle area where I'm from 50%, 60%, across the nation as high as 80%. Meanwhile, rents flatlined, maybe dropped 1%, increased 1%, and then in about 2013, we started our upward trend again. You can see down here, real gross rent history for the U.S. 06, 909, 899. If we go all the way from 2006 to 2012, we have essentially, we were starting at 909 and ending at 912. We spiked up to 931, 947. This is all within 2 to 3%, right? We did not see a plummeting fall in the rate of rents. So as you saw, rental incomes, they didn't drop, right? They flatlined. Maybe there was 1 to 3% variation, but then they started to go up again. So for all those people out there like, well, yeah, I mean, you can buy a cash flowing property, but when the market turns, you might just be left on your butt. Well, that's not what happened last time, and last time was a real estate-led recession. Prior to that, there's never been real estate-led recessions. At least not to my knowledge. I guess maybe there was. I don't know. I don't want to make a definitive statement, have somebody call me out in the comments and say I'm wrong. But, the dot-com bubble burst and the 1987 stock market crash and those things, they were not real estate-caused crashes, okay? And obviously what we've got going on in 2020 is not a real estate-caused crash. It's completely different. So what I'm saying here is don't buy with appreciation as your goal, right? That's just an afterthought. That's a icing on the cake. That's a cherry on the sundae. What you're buying for is cash flow. It's guaranteed. You can get this much in rent and you can turn a profit every month as they build equity in your name, increasing your net worth. It's very simple.
Buying
I'll be
real estate.
even more self-deprecating than you were. I bought my first house when I was 20 years old. Was not married, had no kids. I bought a 4-bedroom house with 3.5 bathrooms. It was ridiculous. I had no business buying a house that young at that stage of life. But I told myself, I did the math and I figured, okay, well, this is how much I'd pay in rent and this is how much I'd pay on a mortgage, and the numbers were close. And so I said, oh, well, I should start building the equity. What I gave up was all my flexibility. Yeah. And I had additional costs like utilities and lawn maintenance and all the things that come with home ownership.
Okay, hold on here. Beau, seriously, I'm speaking right to you. I genuinely hope you watch this because you seem like a really nice, likable young guy who could do a lot of good for people our age, steering them away from poor choices. You sit here and say, I bought a house at 20. First of all, that's amazing. Good for you. And then you go on to say, I bought a 4-bedroom, 3-bed house. I had no business doing that. And then I had to do maintenance on it. Well, Beau, I mean, come on. Would you have to mow the lawn a couple of times? Seriously, roll your sleeves up and go mow the lawn. You can get that nice, perfectly done hair of yours a little sweaty. It's not going to hurt you. But here's the thing. You sat there and you said, hey, I looked at the mortgage and I looked at the rents and they were pretty comparable, so I decided to buy. But why not take it one step further and with that 4-bedroom house, pick up 2 roommates, maybe 3. You know, most rooms here in the Seattle area, literally 1 room rents for $800 a month. Now, maybe this is a few years ago and probably Atlanta, Tennessee, where you're from is a little bit cheaper, but call it $500 a month. Rent 2 of your rooms out, maybe all 3 of them if you want to. Pick up $1,000, pick up $1,500. You got 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. Take that money and pay your mortgage and live for free. And once again, flexibility, you didn't lose any flexibility. All right, it's time to go. I'm going to go ahead and just hire a property management company. Everybody's getting out, and I'm just going to move a family in here. Moral of the story is, Beau, you're 20 years old. You talk about how owning stuff over time, investing $1 at the age of 20 can turn into $88 by the time you're 65. Buying your first house at 20, every real estate investor that I watch that's legitimate, not a fake guru, says the same thing. Man, I wish I'd started younger. Man, except for Tom McKay, Flip Anything USA, because he started at 19. And you couldn't have started younger.
Hey, Tom here, Flip Anything USA. Started at 19 years old. My first property was a millionaire by 28.
But every other one I watch, it's, man, I started at 30. If only I'd started at 25 or 22 or 20 like you, Beau. Like, dude, I wish that we had been friends back then, because maybe you would have motivated me to buy a house at that age, and I would have quickly turned around and been like to all my best friends, hey, come live with me, because you know what? I've had the same roommates for 10 years anyways. Why make those guys pay rent to some big conglomerate corporation when they could have been paying it to your boy, the duly elected sheriff of the internet, and I could have been building equity and net worth in a property that probably is appreciated from 2010 to 2020, doubled in value, built a ton of equity and net worth, and I'd be sitting around like the smartest guy in the universe. Anyway, Beau, I disagree with you. I think you made a good choice, but again, if you bought it just so you could have a bunch of fancy toys and video games in there, then yeah, that's pretty stupid. That is stupid.
It was not the right decision, and my life in the next few years changed drastically. I got married, I had kids, I moved to a different state. Those sort of things, you got to kind of have that figured out. There's nothing wrong with renting early on to give yourself flexibility, or there's nothing wrong with renting later on. We have clients all the time that retire and they want to move to a new community. Maybe up north, they want to get away from the winter and they want to move to a new community. We often advise them, hey, don't go buy a house immediately. If you have the ability, go rent somewhere, figure out the part of town you want to be in and what you're looking for. Flexibility is key when it comes to locking yourself down to real estate decisions. I don't think renting is throwing money away.
Okay, I would agree with him there. A couple of different things. If you're an old person or an old couple and you're retiring and you're looking at moving to a new community, first of all, you probably have a lot of money. You're probably selling your home and you're going to have a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with moving into a nice apartment for a year while you learn the city and learn the area you would like to be in. That's not an issue. Or maybe you're so ultra rich that you don't want to be tied down to any one place and you just want to Airbnb around the country all the time. I mean, a lot of people buy an RV and travel the country and visit their grandkids who are all spread out amongst different states. I would agree with them there. If you are at that stage of life where you're no longer really focused on building wealth and now you're just focused on living your best life and seeing family, maybe it doesn't make sense to buy another house. I don't have any disagreements there.
No, so just make sure you have a process. That's the biggest thing. Have a plan. Begin with the end in mind, all these things, and then measure twice, cut once. You'll be protected because those are all the parts. Real estate is such a heavy, heavy transaction. Do not want to screw it up. So hopefully that covers a lot of his concerns and also clarifies at our own expense how we look at real estate.
Okay, so he does say you need to have a plan at the beginning. I agree with that 100%. Absolutely. Your plan should be, I'm going to buy this 4-bedroom, 3-bath house and immediately put roommates in it. Or I'm going to buy a duplex and rent out the other side. Or a triplex or a fourplex. You can go all the way up to a fourplex with owner-occupied financing, which is preferential financing if you're looking to invest in real estate through house hacking. Check out my other videos. If you don't know what house hacking is, I'll happily explain it to you. It's what's allowed me to save tons of money, save up enough money to buy more properties. I now own 3 units. I'm literally currently working on closing on 2 more right now. Hopefully they close soon. I might burr one of the projects. Not sure yet. Brian and Beau, I genuinely like your show. I think you give great advice. I was very surprised at your take on real estate. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say maybe I didn't see your best video. Maybe you have a video on house hacking and I just missed it. Hopefully this video is beneficial to you guys. Brian and Beau, if you do watch it, I am a fan. Would love to hear your response and your thoughts on house hacking. I will continue to watch your stuff because I think it's beneficial. I hope you guys make your goal of 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. And hey, we'll catch you next time.
But there is one more apex predator that I think the Money Guy family is going to dig. What is it, Beau? Roth. It is the Roth IRA. That is exactly right.